Hello, I'm James Henry, and this is The Message. The Message.
This week we're going to talk about something that's perhaps slightly less popular among the Christian crowd, although if you watch Dr. Oz, that boy would love for you to be cleansed multiple times through various forms of fasting and drinking all sorts of garbage that I would never put in my body, but apparently is good for you. Now, you know what I probably think of Dr. Oz. Sorry about that. If you're a Dr. Oz lover, good for you. If it really helps you, great. So what is this fasting thing? And by the way, if Jesus does it for 40 days and 40 nights, can I do it for 40 days and 40 nights? Or perhaps that's what's daunted you all along. I'm talking about fasting, and you're like, man, you know, Jesus was the Son of God. He could do it for 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. I can't even do it for 15 minutes. You know, there's always some piece of food in the house calling my name. Or even if, you know, occasionally when I'm hungry enough, I find that French fry, you know, McDonald's French fry in my car, and I think to myself, it's not that old. It's less than a year, you know, and, you know, dust it off. Have you ever seen those pictures that they show of a McDonald's Happy Meal from 20 years ago? It looks exactly the same. It hasn't molded. Nothing has grown on it. What does that say about the foodstuffs that we eat? But in any case, in an emergency, I guess I could eat that French fry off the floor of my car, although there aren't any emergency French fries on the floor of my car now because I already ate the emergency French fry. So I'm stuck. So what about this fasting thing? What is it really all about? And is it really just about food? Because the bottom line for me is I think that the biblical message about fasting points to food, but I think it's meant for us in today's world perhaps to see in a much larger perspective. For a long time, I think fasting was all about, or it could be seen as, look at all these sacrifices I'm making for God that will make me worthy of God's love. If I only sacrifice and give up, you know, every Friday, if I just eat fish instead of meat or any other kind of mammal, then I'm really showing God by this sacrifice how worthy I am of God's loving me. And fasting is not at all about that. Fasting is not a worthiness test. If you can't do it for 40 days and 40 nights, I think that's probably a good thing, because if you can fast for 40 days and 40 nights, you're like those Tibetan monks on the mountain that have been practicing. And the truth is, everything I read about fasting when it's about food says that you build up to it. You don't start by saying, you know, just like if all of us decided right now, a few of you, probably Mark and Catherine and a couple of others, if we decided right now we were all going to go run a marathon, we're just going to get up from our chairs, whatever shoes we were wearing, carrying the boys, whatever we're doing, we are going to take off and just start running 26.2 miles. Guess what would happen to us? Mark and Catherine would make it, and I think Rick would probably make it, and maybe a couple of others who are regular runners. I bet you Gingy would make it, but James would make it out the front door to the first curb and be like, oh, that was good. You know, all 0.006 of a mile. I got there. That would be it. Fasting is not something that you just jump into. You know, you might skip a portion of a meal, or but continue to drink, or those kinds of things. There are lots of ways to work it out. But if it's more than food, James, what are you saying that it is? Well, I'm convinced that for many of us who live in society today, we believe inside ourselves that there is something out there that's going to fill up this hole that we feel, or this emptiness that we feel in here. Now, I believe that there's one answer to that question. I think that we all have a God-sized hole that only God will fill up. But we spend a lot of time trying all sorts of other kinds of things out there to fill us up. You know, we try all sorts of special kinds of food. We try all sorts of success and we always think it's that next hurdle. If I can only get to that next place, then I'll really be satisfied. I must not have done it right this time because I've risen to the pinnacle of whatever it is that I've done. But this must not be really success. So I'm going to shoot for that next success and that next. And I think sometimes we are constantly trying to fill up an internal emptiness with something out there, whatever the out there thing is for us. And to me, what fasting is recognizing the things we keep trying to fill the hole with. Whether it's alcohol, drugs, sex, whether it's money, success, title, bigger car, faster computer, more technology, cooler looking clothes, more exercise, less exercise, all of those kinds of things that we imagine that are out there that are going to fill us up. To me, the very first thing we need to do is define for ourselves, what is it that I think is out there that's going to fill me up? What do I imagine is going to fill that void for me? Now, if it's God, I think you might be on the right track. God is big enough. But any of those other kinds of things are always going to leave you dissatisfied. I always thought when I entered ministry it would be the next church. And I never got there. Well, I did. In the early years of ministry, it was whatever. When I entered ministry, I was in college. I was a UVA, and I became an associate pastor at a downtown church in Charlottesville, Hinton Avenue. I loved the people there. I was the associate pastor. I had a delightful senior pastor. In many ways, he taught me some things not to do. He also taught me some things to do. But isn't that how we often learn from each other anyway? And Tommy was a wonderful man, who died just this last year, and sort of a mentor in my life. From there, they threw me into the middle of the woods in Georgia, where I had a four-point charge, which in United Methodist terminology means I was the pastor of 4 little churches. And so every Sunday, I had 6 worship services, and I preached at all 6. And I don't really think I was young. I don't think I even had anything to say. I can't imagine why people kept coming back to hear it, because it was like, oh my gosh, I have no experience in life. I can read the Bible and tell them some words that are in there, and they put up with me. But the long and short is, I imagined it was moving on to successively larger and better paying imagined churches out there, that was some form of success, that's what it was. And so I imagined that. Even when they sent me to St. James in 1992, I imagined that this was, and they told me, this is a stepping stone, James. This is a stepping stone. We're not going to hold it against you that probably in about 2 years we're going to have to close that place. But we're not going to hold that against you. That's what Doug told me, my district superintendent, who unfortunately is now dead too. But what a wonderful man he was. He said, in about 2 years we're going to close that, but we're not going to hold that against you. But I kept imagining that somewhere out there was going to be this imagined wonderful reality that I needed, that would fill me up, that would make me happy. And the truth was, the more I searched out there, the more I felt empty in here, until I realized it wasn't those things. Here's what it is for me, what fasting really is about. It's figuring out that thing that you think defines you. Success. What you wish you had more of, success or time. Look at all the time-saving devices in our world that don't save any time at all. Originally this was supposed to save you time. This was supposed to make my life easier. Now it just means that I can be going to the bathroom and someone can call. I can be driving my car. I don't even get privacy in my car. You know what I used to love about the 80s? I'm dating myself. I was a pastor then. I was the associate pastor. You could get me at home or the office. If I was out visiting somebody, you couldn't get me unless you knew who I was visiting. If I was in the hospital, you couldn't call me. They didn't have to tell me to turn off any device. I didn't have a device to turn off. I was where I was. Now we're not anywhere that we are. I started a practice for myself on Fridays. I'm not always successful. I haven't been recently at all. But Fridays is my Sabbath from electronics. I turn this bad boy off. I don't pick it up. I don't care if it's a personal call. I don't pick it up. I don't let this control my life. Now, the unfortunate thing, this was supposed to be a time saver and supposed to be a wonderful convenience for you. You know who it became a wonderful convenience for? Your employer, who now thinks you work 24/7. If something goes wrong at 2:36 a.m., they can get you because they know you can't escape this thing. It's your electronic leash. If you are addicted to this thing, if this is what gives your life meaning, you need to find a way to fast from it because it will never be enough. I don't care if you get a faster one. I don't care if you get the 6 Plus. This is an iPhone. It's a 5S. I don't care if you get the 6 Plus and it's like almost the size of a tablet. And you can hold it up to the side of your head. It'd be like if I was making a call on my tablet. Hello, how are you doing? Have you seen people walking around with those things? They're like huge. I'm getting one, by the way. But I'm not, talking on their tablet. Just because it's bigger and faster doesn't make it better. What are the things that no longer you hold, but that hold you? That have hold of you down to the core of your being? Is it that television show you can't miss every week? I can tell you in about 9 hours what's coming on television. TV, I watch it every week. AMC, The Walking Dead. You talk about stripping down to nothingness in the post-apocalypse when there are zombies trying to get you and other human beings that are trying to get what you've got. You don't have to worry about whether you've got a cell phone or not because, you're just trying to make sure you're alive in 15 minutes. Back in Jesus' day, back in biblical times, giving up food, that was the necessary thing that people had in their lives. And so it was a statement of, I need something even more than food. Hannah told me a story. She was home for part of this weekend because it's the tail end of Hannah and Joshua's spring break. She was home this weekend and she saved up her money, and so for her spring break she went on a cruise to the Bahamas. While we were in snow, she was in 70, 80 degree weather in Nassau. Yes, I saw all the irony and everything else that went into that. Aren't we paying for you to go to college? Why aren't Linda and I there and you're here snubbling my snow? But one of the things that Hannah is very thrifty. She's very thrifty. She refused while she was aboard ship to pay for the Wi-Fi service. Guess what that means? Didn't work while she was on board ship. Her cell phone. She couldn't call anybody. She couldn't receive texts. She said, we actually sat down to dinner together at night and we talked. The only thing we used these for was to take pictures. Do you remember a day when you sat down at dinner and you didn't have a phone ringing? You didn't have something buzzing or going off in your pocket? Do you remember those moments? I think that's what God would love for you. Not just about your cell phone, because that's not all that has a hold of you. It doesn't really have a hold of me anymore. There are other things that have hold of me, that draw me in, that I think are the next thing in my life. Do you have one of those things? Because the most important thing in your life is to identify what that is. Because before you can fast, you got to figure out what to give up. Many of you, for your health reasons, probably shouldn't give up food. You need to eat. You can't miss that food. For sustenance, for keeping your minerals and everything else balanced, you need to eat. Maybe food isn't the thing you should fast from. Maybe something else is what drives you. Saying yes to everything. Could you fast from saying yes? Deep in my soul somewhere, you'll find this hard to believe. I'm a people pleaser. I like everybody to be happy with me. You know what I learned? Ain't nobody happy as long as I'm trying to make everybody else happy. But I went on a fast one year. I didn't tell anybody. I went on a 4-week fast where I did not say yes to everything. That was my fast. Not saying yes whenever anybody called and said, let's have lunch, let's have dinner, let's go here, let's go there. You know what I learned in that time is I could say yes and mean it. I could also say no and mean it. If you're a person who I say yes to on a regular basis in your life, don't think that it's because I wish I could say no instead. That's not what you should, because I learned that lesson. I've learned to say no. Some of you may call and say, James, I need you to do this, and I may say no. I can't. I've even said to someone as recently as 6 weeks ago, no, I can't add you to my prayer list. There's no room. There's no room on my prayer list for you. Oh my gosh, some of you are like shocked. You're all on my prayer list. There's just no room for anybody else. Well, that's not absolutely true. The problem is every person you pray for, this is last week's sermon, probably a piece of it. Every person you pray for, you're letting into the most intimate core of your life. I can't let everybody into that core. So when I meet just a stranger on the street who says, oh, you're a pastor, you can pray for me. I'll pray for you right now, and then I'm cutting you loose. Because I can't let anybody else into that inner sanctum of my heart. What do you need to fast from in your life? What's got a hold of you? Is it your stuff? Is it getting more stuff? Is it money? Is it time? You only wish you had more time, so you keep getting time-saving devices that just end up taking up your time? I read a report that a lot of people buy time-saving devices for their kitchen. And by the time they only use it once in a while, by the time they take it out of the cabinet, clean it, use it to grind up whatever they were grinding up, wash it, and put it back away, they could have done it by hand. In fact, they could have done it by hand 4 times. But they have that time-saving device that's saving them time. For a while, before you all bought us a brand new dishwasher at our house, we had to wash the dishes to put them in the dishwasher. I'm not sure how it was saving us any time. I washed the dishes so they'd go in so they would come out clean. Why didn't I just wash them and put them in the dish drainer and put them away? I don't know, because I thought I had to use the dishwasher. So, not everything that we think we have to have, that we have hold of, really do we have hold of. Oftentimes, it has hold of us. Hannah talked to me when she was talking to me about it, how freeing it was not to have this device working. And Hannah is from that generation for whom this is like, if she could, dig a hole under her skin and put it in there, there's going to be a chip one day. You're all going to have, well, some of us maybe will. As soon as they come out with one band, I'm going to have them go right to the doctor, right in there. I'm ready. Plug that thing in. I just want to be connected all the time so I can know everything all the time without break. She told me how freeing it was. Are there things that have now got such a hold of you that you feel imprisoned by them? Can you identify them by name? The beginning of letting go is being able to call a name. Many of these things in our lives have become addictions. Addictions. I'm addicted to food. I'll admit it. See, right here. You can see it right across here. This is my food addiction speaking out loud. It spoke very loud to me this morning. I was thinking, I'm getting ready to talk about fasting, and my stomach is growling really loud. It's like, I don't know. It's so distracting. I don't know if I'll be able to preach. Maybe I need to eat some food. But what are the things that have got such a hold of you that you can't really let go of them? That you can't say no to them? Because those are the things that maybe you ought to be fasting from. Oftentimes during this season, right before Easter, traditional Christians from time immemorial gave up something symbolically. I know what some of you have given up because you've told me at various points along this journey towards Easter when you get it back. Whew. And it's a celebration because what was empty inside of you is now full. You got it back. But what are some of the kinds of things that aren't food that maybe you need to fast from and let go of because they've taken control of your life? God wants your life. You know what? Following Jesus, why we have this HeartReady series, following Jesus is hard work. Some people say it's just praying a simple prayer, God, I'm a sinner, I'm messed up, please forgive me. If you think that's all that it is, I've got some bad news for you. If somebody told you that, they were selling something. And I can sell you some of this snake oil, just put a little of this on you, and you will be connected with Jesus forever. I'm only going to say, it's one squirt, $1,000. One squirt, $1,000. I'll get you right in with Jesus. You just need a squirt every week. $1,000 a squirt. It might go up because it's going to run low. If somebody told you it was some kind of easy thing like checking a box with just a simple prayer, it's praying that prayer over and over again. God, so many things have hold of me. I just want to be held by you. I just want to hold on to you, but I'm so busy holding on to these other things and imagining these other things that I wish I had that I don't have time to fit you in. Christianity twists us inside out sometimes and makes us face our own demons. We all want. We don't have. I wanted the world till mine came apart. How many times in our lives do we imagine that it's that next thing somewhere out there? Perhaps we need to take the advice of Frozen and let it go. Let it go. I'm not going to sing it. You've heard it enough times. If you have small children, a lot. Let it go. What has hold of you so tightly you can't imagine being without it? And if it's not God, if it has become God, whether it be technology or your stuff or your job or more money or a bigger house or more success or whatever it is you imagine's out there, let it go. We all want what we ain't got. Let it go.